Today I'm replacing an ignition coil on a 2017 Hyundai Elantra. The ignition coil is part of a coil pack, one ignition coil going to each cylinder, and it's an extremely easy job with just a few steps and really only one tool required, so let's get started. The first thing you need to do is take the cover off here. This whole piece is one large plastic piece. It looks like it would be difficult to pull off, but there's actually some nubs on the other side that go into rubber grommets that hold it in place. So all you do is grab the corner and pull up, and it pops up. And there you go. You really have to pull sometimes, especially if it's been in place for a long time, but you'll see the pins, the nubs where it goes into. What I'd recommend to help with this is a basic OBD2 code reader for your car. Not just for this project, but for any project. If there's minor, semi-minor issues happening with your car, this is a good way to diagnose it relatively easily and quickly. The symptoms I was getting, and which are fairly common around, once a car reaches around 90,000 miles, and cars that do have coil packs like this, which I'll show you later, it hesitates, it feels just like a cylinder's missing. So you might even stall at a light. It's sluggish, and the code reader will show misfire on a certain cylinder. So obviously this is a 4-cylinder car. When I read the code, it showed a misfire on cylinder 3. So on the Hyundai Elantra, the cylinders are going from left to right as you're facing the car. So facing the steering wheel. Cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4. And you'll notice I have labeled these because I've replaced them in the past with the mileage that at the time where I placed the new coil pack in. So the code on this particular situation read misfire number 3. So that's 1, 2, 3 right here, and we'll remove that and pop a new one in. So in this next step, there's a little plastic gray tab that's at the end of the wiring harness that connects the wiring to the top of the ignition coil. It's right here. A lot of times you can just slide that piece away from the top of the coil and slide it out of place so that the harness can move from left to right, disconnect it from the top of the coil. You can also use a small flathead screwdriver and slide it over that way, just to be careful not to do it too quickly, and you don't want to snap that tab or break it. So I'm just going to use my thumbnail here, and there you go. It popped right out of place, and now we'll be able to disconnect the harness so that we can then unscrew that bolt and remove the ignition coil. So to remove the single bolt, it's a little bit of an odd size socket. It's a smaller one, 13/32. I believe that's around 10 or 11 millimeters in metric. But you just place the socket on the bolt head and loosen it up. I'd suggest starting it by loosening it and then finishing by loosening it and taking it out by hand, just to make sure you don't lose it down in the engine compartment like I've done a few times. You'll see the bolt has a couple small washers on it, and just place that off to the side for the time being in some place where you won't lose it. So all you need to do, since that tab has been released, you can pull the harness from left to right away from the top of the ignition coil. You may have to move these wires back here a little bit just to have clearance. You notice on cylinder 1 here, a little bit on 2, but mostly 1, there's no wires, so you can just loosen this bolt and pull straight up. Now I'll just wiggle the coil, the ignition coil, a little bit. Just wiggle it to break it free. There's a rubber seal in there, and lift straight up. You'll notice that there's tension, a little bit of resistance because of that rubber grommet, that rubber seal that prevents moisture from getting in there and just creates a nice tight fit. On this particular coil, I label it just so I know when I put it in. Last time, 91,000 miles. You do need to replace these occasionally. I just like to know when they're replaced. So here is my replacement coil. I found that I've had the best luck for the most part with the ones that have these three ridges on the side, the glossy epoxy sealed top, although there's probably not a lot of variation in these units, but that is what a single ignition coil looks like, and there are 4 of these on this car. So like I mentioned, what I like to do is I label everything, but 119,000 miles is when this is going in, April of 2026. Unfortunately, that means I only got 28,000 miles out of the previous coil pack I put in. I guess that's not the end of the world considering how inexpensive these are, a little over between $20 and $25. So you just reverse the process, putting it back in, slide it straight down, push it down so it seats firmly. So that coil pack is going straight down. You could either put this plug in advance of pushing it down into the cylinder port or after it's in. I'm going to put it back in, push that tab back into place, line up the hole for the bolt. Grab your bolt, start it. And just tighten it down into place. I like to check it and just kind of wiggle a little bit just to make sure it's seated. You don't have to really overdo it with the tightening, just snug, just the same as when you're putting your spark plugs in and you don't want to over tighten those. Nice and snug. So that is it. I'll now run the scan tool again, make sure the code is gone, drive the car for a while, and it should be running nice and smooth with that new ignition coil in place. But it's as simple as that. Very straightforward, easy process. Takes literally 5-10 minutes tops, especially if you've done it a few times. And just about anybody can do it. And obviously the last step, popping the cover back on. I'm going to line up these grommets with the nubs, we'll call them. And then push down till it snaps, all 4 corners. Job done.